Good evening, everyone. Welcome to round number 5 of the Trackstars Touring Car Series. We're live here tonight from the Road Atlanta Raceway, also known as the Michelin Raceway, of course, in the state of Georgia in the United States of America. And of course, we've had one round of racing previously in the United States last week at the Watkins Glen Circuit in New York, featuring the TS2 and TS3 cars. And tonight we've had the TS2 racing already take place, and now the main series finally gets their turn stateside. We're just about to go into qualifying, or maybe not, as looks like the host has ended the lobby here, so we might have to do a bit of switching around. But of course, joining me here tonight for the first time this season, after racing in the first 3 rounds of the main series and unfortunately not being able to join us for round number 4 due to an illness, it's Nick Patasso, also known as N-Spud P666. Good evening, Spud. Glad to have you here with us.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Yes, obviously I've just stepped out of the TS2 combox to now join you in the main series. It's actually going to be a first time for me here, ladies and gentlemen. So as was mentioned, I did do the opening 3 rounds, as you would have seen in our previous Trackstars broadcast of the main series. The first couple of rounds being pretty good, and then obviously getting the wildcard entry into what was the Green Hell 250, but what was a wildcard entry actually turned into an actual seat for WTC Racing. So a bit interesting for me to be driving for another team, but hey ho, fill in for a missing man, and you get some good points and good rewards there, and obviously contributing and helping WTC Racing get some valuable points for their team's championships. Currently sitting in 3rd place in the team's sitting in 4th place in the team's championship. So a long way to go. We are round 5 here for the Trackstars Touring Cars, as mentioned by Jarman, at Michelin Raceway at Road Atlanta. It's a fantastic track of 12 corners around this 4-kilometer circuit. Very excited to see how the main series cars cope with the tight, twisty bends, how everyone sets their car up, where they set for themselves up for a low downforce setup, or they go for a high downforce, just trying to get through those S sections as quickly as they can before they lose a little bit of time coming onto this back straight. So very excited. 32 laps in 2 races. We are running the soft tyre here tonight. So only soft tyres, no compulsory pit stops for our drivers here tonight. So it's all just about going full send for 32 laps. Potentially trying to conserve some tyres towards the end of the race, but we'll find out very soon, as we've just got into qualifying. And Jarman, obviously you have been the man that has been doing all the commentary for the first 4 rounds. You definitely can't go past the man that could potentially be going for pole position in Ridwan Hamza, who's been leading the way in that car 95 and doing himself the honours of getting that car 95 back to winning ways and back up towards the pecking order.
Yeah, it's been an unbelievable start to the season so far for Hamza, and yeah, undefeated so far in this series. A perfect 1,200 points to kick off his campaign, and certainly getting that number 95 back towards the pointy end of the field in the series, and certainly leading the charge in the championship. It's certainly very close between the rest of the field, and I'm sure there is a number of drivers who will be looking to take the challenge up to Hamza tonight. Of course, few of them on the screen in Palmer, Lansdell and Scott, all very capable of putting in some great performances and probably challenging for the win if everything goes their way on the night.
Absolutely. We did see some very strong performances last time out at Brands Hatch, obviously for the It's Racing boys, getting themselves a 1-2 in the second race at Brands Hatch, but as well we've been seeing some strong performances essentially by all drivers, especially from familiar names, as we've seen in Jerem O'Shea for CP Motorsports. He got himself up into the podium positionings last time out at Brands Hatch, as well as the likes of, I believe, Oh yeah, no, it was Ryan Palmer that got third place. So 2 podiums for the It's Racing boys, both on the one on the top step for 2 races, the other one in third and second place. And then as well, we saw Tyler Lansdell pick up that last position, that third place in race 2 of the touring car race at Brands Hatch for race 2. So there's a bit of a chop and change in the pecking order here at Trackstars. So obviously we've got the It's Racing boys leading the way in the teams championship, and also leading the way 1 and 2 in the drivers' championship, as you just mentioned. So it's a lot of work for all the other teams just to play a bit of catch up and try and get their car set up for this track around here, especially, as I said, through the windy section and then really setting the car up for the back straight. But so far, as all the drivers are filing through, coming towards the start-finish line, it is being led by, as we know, the 2 It's Racing boys, with Ryan Palmer leading the way ahead of his teammate in Ridwan Hamza in second place. Lansdell holds on to third place as we see Lashbrook coming towards the final quarter now. He only just moves up into 9th place. So everyone's really just trying to get a bit of a side of lap, really just trying to get themselves comfortable in their positionings and where their car is set up. And so far it's been a solid start and a dream start, as always, as we've seen for the It's Racing boys first and second.
Yeah, Palmer putting down a good banker lap there and with a 109.2, and Hamza just a little bit behind, so maybe a bit of a swap around in the order compared to what we've normally seen from the It's Racing squad, but maybe Hamza might have a bit of an answer later on this session.
It was very early in the stage and he's just coming up to the back end of Walker coming towards the final corner there, so you can see the lag coming from his end there, and he still manages to put it onto P1, so getting held up by Walker and putting up to P1, and just eclipsing him is Jezza O'Shea, the man that was on form at Brands Hatch in race 1, getting himself onto the podium's positioning, splitting the 2 It's Racing drivers, currently leading the way on provisional pole position with less than 6 minutes to go. We can see Scott has moved up into 4th place, and his teammate in Von Duvey coming around the final corner doesn't find any improvements there, stays 6th place. Ward is in 7th, and as we see there, a couple of the names just down the order there. Down in 11th place, we see Craig Harcourt returning, actually making his return. He was last time out, he did race with us in the touring cars, but on the off season that we've had, he did come down with a bit of an injury, a bit of an illness. So he actually had to admit himself into the hospital, but he's now back. He's finally raring to go, and it's good to see a man like him come back on track and get that Car 22 RoboSport Racing up towards the top end of the order there. But as we've seen some more lap times come through, Campbell has moved up into P4, so he's done a very good job for CP Motorsports to get themselves 1 and 4. And so far, it is the 2 teams, CP and It's Racing. So we've got ourselves less than 5 minutes to go as we see some drivers coming into the pit lane, maybe just a bit of a change of tyres. If it was actually me, I wouldn't really need to come in and change tyres, because with how the cars are set up and with the tyre wear that's set up on these cars, there's not really much point in going on for a fresh set, as we see Von Duvey come through with a really nice lap time there, 1 minute 9.2. So the gaps between the top 5, or the top 4 actually, is just over 0.2 of a second there. So it's a very close compact field, just like we saw in the TS2 qualifying session, where it was the top 12, it was the first 12 drivers split by less than a second. So potentially we could be seeing something very similar here tonight, as we see Palmer entering the pit lane for a fresh set of boots. We saw Jezza come out of the pit lane with a fresh set of boots. Lansdell and Apex in Lashbrook still staying out on track. They're not coming into the pit lane just yet. They haven't lost too much tyre tread there, but potentially, but what could be the benefiting factor is that maybe some softer compounds and maybe some fresh rubber could give them that little bit of extra grip around the corners. So it could be, putting on some fresh set of tyres compared to, 5 laps of running on those tyres. It could definitely help drivers just find a few extra tenths here and there in some corners.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to work out, whether you go for the fresh tyres or keep pounding around. Sometimes you can gain a little bit by just wearing down the fuel and trying to just keep going with the tyres you've got. Sometimes you can also gain a little bit from that fresh set of boots as well. As we see Von Duve coming into the pits, he's got a bit of damage, so that has probably, I'll say, forced his hand there a bit with whether he wanted to pit or not. So we'll just have a bit of a look now. O'Shea's on a lap. Humza's just started a lap. Palmer's on his out lap. Campbell's just started a lap, but it looks like O'Shea's probably the furthest around at the moment of the front 5 or 6 drivers. As he comes across, we'll check out the sector split. Looks like he's slowed down a bit as well.
So it looks like we're just seeing a few lap times come through there. We're just seeing Lashbrook put himself inside the top 5. So that's the first time we've seen him inside the top 5. And he's actually, if it stays as it is, it'll actually be he'll actually be able to out-qualify his teammate in Lansdale, which looks like he's struggling a little bit with only just over 2 minutes to go until the end of the session. So Lansdale in 8th place, his teammate in 5th place. So thanks for everyone for joining us here on Trackstars Racing Series YouTube channel. Just let us know in the comments below how our sound quality is like, whether we are all being broadcasted or if one of us is being a little bit quieter than the other. So just let us know in the chat below just to see how we are sounding tonight. But it is the last part of qualifying, so you've potentially got yourselves another couple of more laps here. So for Palmer especially, to be able to get 2 more laps in before the end of the session, as we see the drivers getting very close into that 1:09 barrier, but not able to challenge O'Shea. So O'Shea still leading the way with a 1:09 flat. What does Palmer do on this lap? He's only 7/10 down, so it is still a very close field amongst all of our drivers here tonight. As we go through the order, Campbell in 6th, Lansdale in 7th, Ando Scott in 8th, Ward in 9th place, and all still separated by less than a second. I believe it was 0.7 between the top 9. We'll see what O'Shea can do. This looks like a very handy lap. Oh, he only just misses out 1:09.2. And we can see now the man that has been getting all those pole positions and victories. What does the car 95 in Hamza do? Negotiating 10B very nicely there through turns 11 and 12. We can never know with his network stability, but he's coming through potentially into a low 1:09. Oh, he's so close. He's just 0.060. Lansdale has made a few positions up, but he's only stayed in P7. He's got a good lap time in, but it's not enough to propel him inside the top 5. What does Von Duve do? He's still in P4, so far the fastest Lexus going to Von Duve in car 117. Around the final corner, won't be able to get a good lap time in, won't be able to set a representative lap time in. Jarman, I'm running out of words here, mate. The lap times are so close here in between the top drivers. This is absolutely incredible.
Yes, this is probably one of the closest qualifying sessions I've seen for some time, and a guy like Lansdale is putting in some really good laps here and still only sitting down in 7th place, and of course Ando Scott as well, just on the edge of the top 8 too. So there's a lot of drivers here. It's very closely bunched up, and it's just one moment of brilliance away from taking pole position. As we see O'Shea's crossed the line. Hamza's coming around for one final lap. Will he improve? Yes, he does. He goes to the top.
He goes, and he's the first driver to hit the 1:08 there. Lansdale improved his lap time to go up into P6. What does Hamza's teammate in Ryan Palmer can do? He's only a 10th down, just under 2/10. So he's going to try and go full send through to 10A and then into 10B. Can he get himself an It's Racing Esports front row lockout for only the 3rd time here at Trackstars Touring Cars, the main series? Can he get himself up towards the front? He doesn't. He's down into P3. Von Duve's coming around the final few corners. He doesn't come through. Lashbrook didn't get a good lap time in there, unfortunately. So everyone coming through with some clutch laps there. And we're seeing up towards the top 9 there. Only just over 7/10 of a second, Jarman. That is so close between the top 9.
Yeah, top 9 all separated by less than a second. Of course, Hamza with that pole time of 1:08.9. And then Ward down in 9th place with a 1:09.8. So the second covering just over the first half of the field. It's going to
It's
prove
so
an extremely close racing tonight. I'm certain of that.
I don't think the qualifying was actually as close as it was from what I remember at Brands Hatch. I mean, I'll have to look back, but even at Brands Hatch, it was very quite spread out. So Road Atlanta's providing some good close action, just like we saw in TS2. The qualifying was so close between the top 12, and now the top 9 here in the main series is separated by just less than a second there. As we go through, I believe the race has gone and commenced for what is going to be the first race for 32 laps here around this 4-kilometer circuit at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Who is going to come through? Can Hamza lead the way from pole positions, just like he's always been doing so far this year in 2023? Can he get himself another victory, or will we see a new victor here at Trackstars Touring Cars round 5 for the Atlanta Sprint? So we're about to go green flag racing. It is myself, Nick Patasso, and Jarman Dellitz bringing you the coverage here for the Trackstars Touring Cars main series. It is Hamza on pole, O'Shea and Palmer, the second and third, as those 5 lights are about to go out. The revs rise here at Atlanta. We are underway, green flag racing. It is a strong start for the It's Racing boys. Von Duvy's coming through to the middle, making it 3 wide, going it into turn 1. Who will come out on top? It is Von Duvy from 4th to 2nd. What a start by the Lexus driver for WTC Racing, getting his car up into P2. Great start by the man in car 117. Hamza leads the way, going through to the S's for the first time on lap 1 of 32. Palmer still down to P3. O'Shea loses 2 positions out of that. Lashbrook and Lansdale still hold position, but what a start by Hamza, and especially a great start by Von Duvy for WTC Racing, Jarman.
Yeah, Hamza did everything he needed to do off the line and got a great launch, but I think Von Duve you'd probably give him the whole shot if there was such a thing in these races. But yeah, he came from the second row and really jumped ahead of sort of the 2 cars that have qualified in front of him, and yeah, really got himself up the order, and crucially up into second place. And on a track like this where passing might be a little bit difficult, it's certainly good to get track position early on.
At the end of lap 1, it is Hamza over Von Duvy, over Palmer, over O'Shea. Lansdale ahead of his teammate in Lashbrook. Ando Scott in 7th place, so not a familiar position that we see him. So he's down in P7. Ward inside the top 8. As we try to look outside of the top 8, we're going to find a few drivers coming through. Campbell hasn't had a good run. He's down into P9. Kosterok for ISA Esports inside the top 10. His teammate in Powers is in 11th place. Walker 12th. Oldman 13th. And down in 14th place, unfortunately, is Hardcourt. So just making his return to the Trackstars Touring Cars field after what he came down with a massive illness over the past week. He's coming down in 14th place. Powers coming through very nicely into P11 there. Walker, as we've seen from him a few times, he's actually put on some good performances there as of late, but unfortunately in this race not
looks
having
like
the best
there's a bit of an incident there with O'Shea. He's dropped down the 7th, and now he's got Ward down the inside into 10A. Has dropped him down to 8th place, and now he's probably under threat a bit from his teammate as well. We'll see if we can get a replay of what has happened to O'Shea here. Quickly jump away.
That is a very good call there, as we see what happened to O'Shea. Oh, he just ran wide on the exit of turn 8, I believe that is, and yeah, just caught the curb, lost traction, and that you could just see all the cars are so bunched to each other, Jarman. They are just slipstreaming each other, and that's why you could just see a massive train just pulling themselves ahead of O'Shea. They said, "There's no room for you in this carriage, sir. You're going down to the lower class. So you're down in P8, Ward ahead in P9, and his teammate right behind him in 9th place. And not the start that CP Motorsport wanted to have after having a good qualifying, and just down in 8th and 9th place for the CP cars.
Yeah, definitely not what O'Shea wanted at the start of the race, but he's looking very racy here as we head down the back straight, and he's certainly picking up where he's left off, I'd say, and he's certainly looking for a way to get ahead and move back up the order. Although he just doesn't quite have enough to get down the inside of Ward here through 10A and 10B. So he's going to have to probably wait a little bit longer for a way past. Bonduve sitting in second place at the moment. Still holding on to that position nicely with Palmer just about 0.7 of a second back. Certainly not close enough to really challenge. And I
Definitely see
imagine
the dirty air really kicking in there. So you can see there Hamza's just pulling away. The Bonduve's not able to do much to close up, but then you're going to see some cars lining up behind Bonduve and Palmer. So the dirty air will come into an effect here. It's all about just trying to get that run onto the back straight and really just trying to tuck underneath that rear wing and go for that inside move or outside move into 10A, 10B. As Bonduve just losing time to Hamza. Ryan Palmer bringing that gap down massively. He's holding on to P3, but it's challenging for P2 to try and get that 96 up towards the front, and he just loses it on the exit of 10B. That's going to compromise him just a little bit to Tyler Lansdale behind and Chris Lashbrook in 5th place. As we saw there with Jerem dropping down to PA, that's promoted everyone up from Lansdale to Ward from 4th to 7th. Unfortunately for O'Shea, just dropping well down the order into 8th place only a couple of laps ago, but Lansdale ahead of his teammate in 5th place. So the MSR boys just trying to find some sort of redemption after what was unfortunately a one-man job at Brands Hatch for race 2, with Lashbrook coming down with migraine on his end there, so he couldn't compete for race 2, and the car also had a bit of a gremlin in the ECU, so that car was parked in the garage. The man had to put himself into the hospital, and that's not how MSR wanted to finish their Brands Hatch campaign last time out.
Certainly not a good run for the MSR team, and I think that hurt the squad a little bit in the team points as it's dropped them down to 3rd behind WTC Racing, but Lansdale now just closing into the back of Palmer here. Palmer, of course, making that mistake a lap ago and allowing Lansdale just to close up to the back a bit, and it sort of looks like Palmer's struggling a little bit in that dirty air of Bonduve and maybe just overheating the tyres a little bit for a moment and maybe affecting the grip a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is where you're going to see a lot of the drivers just closing up to each other, and then you're just going to see, as Ryan and I pointed out, you're going to see a few tenths gained in certain sections, but then you're going to see a few tenths actually lost by drivers, because that's just what happens around here at Road Atlanta. That dirty air just really kicks in, and there's nothing you can do to stop it, because essentially you can see there Palmer is 1.2 behind. Lansdale going into turn 8 was only 0.7 behind Palmer, but you can see the gap increasing to 1.2 as they come down towards 10A, 10B. So the dirty air behind that Nissan to hitting the Lexus behind him is really struggling, and vice versa. The Lexus hitting the aero wash onto that Nissan is really struggling. Is really making those two drivers struggle to close up into P2, as we see Hamza just pulling away. He's still in 1st place, but he's pulling away pretty quickly, and no one's able to stop him. We can just see on the mini-map there, he's coming up towards the exit of turn 5, and the drivers are still going through the S's.
Yeah, just get a quick replay here. It looks like Ward has just given up the position to O'Shea, so yeah, he got a bit out of shape there on the exit of 10B. And that was the only invitation that O'Shea needed to take
wide.
Spot.
We just caught it there. He just ran wide on turn 12 there as well. So just giving a little bit too much room to Jerem. And unfortunately there, that opened up the position to be taken by Campbell in 8th place. So very unlucky for Ward, losing 2 positions and giving up those 2 positions to the CP cars. Walker's going to come through and take 9th place away from Ward. Will Kostarock be able to take 10th place? He's just a little bit further back there, so the ISA driver still holds on to 11th, and Ward just demoted down to 10th place after what was 7th place only a lap ago, Jarman. So 7th to 10th, that's a big loss for the Robo Sport driver.
Yeah, a couple of costly mistakes there at the end of the last lap, or the lap before actually, and I've seen him drop down the order. probably a big benefit here, possibly for Walker, is that he's gotten a bit of separation between himself and Kosterok. Although with Ward all over the back of him, it could prove costly as well. Although Ward's ran wide again. And now he's going to have to fend off from Kosterok. Could play into the advantage of Walker here.
But you got to remember, Ward had dirty tyres there.
Yes.
So once you go wide onto the marbles and you go wide onto the gravel trap, you trying to pull the car up where your normal braking zone is. Good luck, son. You ain't pulling it up whatsoever. And that's exactly what happened to Ward. They braked with his normal braking zone if you had fresh, clean tyres. But unfortunately, running wide on the exit of turn 5, you weren't pulling that up, son. So unfortunately for him, down to 11 places, just going from bad to worse for the Robo Sport guys. So unfortunately for Robo Sport, with Amanda in 11th and Hardcore in 14th place, not the result they wanted, as it is the last round that we are actually seeing Robo Sport Racing being represented as a team here at Trackstars Racing Series. So Ward 11th, Hardcore 14th. They got a lot of work to do to try and push themselves up towards the pecking order, especially as if when race 2 comes around. So definitely a dud race for Robo Sport Racing, unfortunately. So hopefully in race 2 they'll be able to get themselves up towards the front. Well, let's look back up towards the front there. We can see the gaps are really closing for between P2 and P3. As you see Ward struggling to get that traction down there. We can see Von Duvy's just pulled away quite a fair amount actually over Palmer. So last time I recall,
certainly gained some time there over Palmer.
Yeah, so last I recall, it was only, they were battling each other for between 6-7 tenths between Von Duvy and Palmer only about 2-3 laps ago, but that's gone out to 2 seconds. So a very clutch drive by Von Duvy in second place to get himself well clear of Von Duvy and ahead of Palmer rather. And it's all up to Lansdale now to try and close the gap to Palmer and try and steal P3 away from the 96 driver. And Lashbrook is not too far behind as well. He's just coming under pressure from Ando Scott right behind in 6th place. You can see there. So you can say they're between 3rd to 6th place. It looks to be roughly around 3.5 seconds, I would say, between those cars. So very close quarters. You can see all 4 cars within the same picture frame. So it's not over yet for the podium positioning. It's all it's going to take is one mistake from Palmer, and this will invite all the 3 Lexus drivers behind him to challenge for P3.
Yeah, and you can't count O'Shea out as either. He's just lurking a little bit behind Scott as well in 7th place, so you can just see him in the background there, the red CP Motorsports number 50 car just behind Scott there. And yeah, he'll certainly be looking to make his way up the order again and maybe try and salvage a podium from this race after what was a great qualifying performance earlier. But Von Duve is certainly proving how crucial that launch off the line was. And he's settling in nicely into 2nd place and certainly spoiling the It's Racing Esports party at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what I have noticed after driving the 45, what was the 45 MSR and the 787 Lexus, the Lexus does have a very good launch system over the Nissan GTR. So because it is a very draggy car, you would think that it would have a horrible start, but if you just get the revs right, the car launches absolutely to perfection, and you can really just out-drag those Nissan GTRs. I believe it's 0 to 100 between the 2 cars is just a little bit faster than the Nissan. So that's why we usually see those Lexuses up towards the pecking order at the start of the race. But Hamza's got a really good launch on his car, and that's why we've seen the man in car 95 leading the way and is basically untouchable. He's holding a steady gap there. He's actually been able to keep that gap within 3 seconds over Von Duvy. Looks like he's lost a little bit of time here. Actually 1 minute 11 lap time, and just coming out ahead of Powers. Powers almost taking him out on turn 3 there, I believe it is.
Looks like he's had a mistake in the last lap. He's got some rear end damage to the car.
Yeah, I've just noticed that. Thanks for picking it up there. He's got damage on his car, so 95. So this is a crucial part in this racing, ladies and gentlemen. The gap was coming up to 3.6 at the start finish line. The gap is just 2. Essentially was holding on to P2 Hamza with a big mistake on lap 11 with rear left suspension wheel and rear bumper. That is going to become costly. What can Hamza do on lap 12 of 32? He can't hold this for 20 laps. Surely not, John.
Yeah, you'd think it's a very tough ask for him to hold on to this for another 20 laps. Especially with the pace that Von Duve is holding at the moment, you would assume that he'd be closing in quite quickly. And it would be a matter of time before he takes over the lead of the race, so probably not sure what the play here will be, whether he needs to pit or whether he decides to push on, although he just gained 0.3 of a second probably through those last few corners, so maybe he can get his head around what he needs from the car with the damage and maybe drive around it a bit and get a bit of extra performance out of it.
Yeah, I'm just really fixed on that delta time, and even Von Duve's lost time to Palmer. So Palmer has just come down from out of nowhere as well. So Palmer must have just cooled his tyres down, maybe just put in some really good laps. Next to his name there, we can see there a 1 minute 9.6 as his fastest lap compared to Von Duve's last lap. So potentially, this not only just opens the door for Von Duve to take the lead, this could potentially give Ryan Palmer a good sniff of trying to take the lead here at Road Atlanta for the Atlanta Sprint and Race 1. So this opens the door for two drivers, and he's gone again for another personal best there, 1 minute 9.4. So we're seeing Hamza really driving the car to the absolute limit to what it can hit and more. And that's very impressive by Hamza to really get what the car needs. He definitely struggles on the straight there, obviously trying to turn in the car at an angle that you normally don't see on a race car. If you see a car facing the wrong steering left or right on a straight, you know you've got some problems with the car. But Hamza's doing a fantastic job to keep that car in the lead, and as well gaining advantages over both Von Duve and Palmer.
Yeah, of course. Probably one thing you mentioned about Palmer closing in is that maybe he's got a bit of intel from the team of the damage and known to sort of press up to the back of Von Duve a bit more and maybe try and put the pressure on and see if they can force a mistake out of Von Duve rather than sitting back a bit and holding onto the tyres. Instead, maybe closing up to the back, and also if there's a bit of a battle between Von Duve and Hamza, maybe it's somewhere that Palmer can maybe slip underneath the two of them and maybe steal the lead at some point while they're trying to battle with each other.
Yeah, we just saw they just ran a little bit wide on turn one, so he lost a few tenths to Von Duve, and Lansdale managed to gain a few tenths on Palmer as well there, but Von Duve's still stuck in that 2-second barrier. I would say in a theory, like if this was any other driver lurking around with some rear left damage and a broken front wing, rear wing and bumper, you know, the driver behind him would close up to him easily. But this is Hamza. My good, the man, the caliber that he's got, he's performed so well since leaving Satellite Racing as they withdrew their entry for 2023. So he was a free agent on the market, and It's Racing Esports came from basically out of nowhere to hire his services, and throughout this whole year has been putting on some clutch performances and some great performances. The man that's got 100% record next to his name in victories, and he's holding on to this car. He only lost 2 tenths on that lap. My goodness, this is turning out to be an amazing drive if Hamza can hold on to this with only with just over 17 laps to go.
Yeah, well, obviously we've seen the performances he's put in from probably the midpoint of 2021, where he came into the series, and I believe it was Catalunya. He took a clean sweep of wins and picked up some victories at the Nürburgring as well, before he sort of dropped off a little bit. But even that later stage of last year's championship, he sort of found some form and was picking up some podium finishes, really supporting Speedy Tyres or Austin in his charge towards the championship, which he succeeded in. So he's obviously found something in the later part of last year and has been able to bring it over to the It's Racing Esports team and carried on into this current season and really get off to a flying start.
Yeah, whether he was just playing the number 2 driver at Satellite Racing. I mean, if you don't, I don't think Satellite Racing would have a number 1 and number 2 with Jackson Austin winning the championship, also known as Speedy Tyres winning the championship in that 41, and in the 79, Hamza wasn't too far behind in that championship as well. I've just been looking at the gaps here. The gaps are still being. It's been still a bit of a seesaw. It's going up and down as we see Palmer. Oh, he almost loses it on the exit of turn 5 there. He's going to get a half-second penalty next to his name, unfortunately. So that'll lose him time to both Von Duvier, but that'll gain a lot of time on Lansdale. We can see that he's lost so much time. He's 3.4 behind Von Duvier. So even though he went PB on the last lap, definitely that turn 1 and turn 2 sequence is not really favouring the It's Racing driver. You can see on his tyres as well how much he's actually losing grip. And if we compare his tyres to Lansdale, they look very similar, but I think Lansdale's just saving a little bit more. It's definitely a system between the controller and the wheel where it has its advantages and disadvantages on both systems. Where we can see there on Palmer's end, he's just losing a bit of tyre temperature, he's losing some tyre grip. And this latter stages, as we are well over the half race distance, it is still Hamza leading the way. Von Duvier's closing that gap pretty quickly, and Palmer's coming all sorts of pressure from both the MSR drivers in Lansdale and Lashbrook. Ando Scott is not far behind in 6th place, only 1.4 behind Lashbrook, and O'Shea as well, right in the background in 7th place. But this is going to be a spicy second half to this race here, Jarman. Can Hamza hold on, or will Von Duvier come through and take the victory? We'll find out in just less than 16 laps time.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting finish to this race, and of course the battle for the podium is certainly not resolved either. There's probably about 6 cars that you could say are very much in contention for a podium spot, depending on how it all plays out.
It's definitely going to be just all about strategies, all just going to be about really just it's all about timing, I would say. I think it's all about the drivers just trying to time their runs, just save a bit of fuel, save some tyres. The fuel, everyone knows the fuel's going to get to the end, but it's all about those tyres, just trying to keep them fresh, try to preserve them just a little bit, so towards the end you can definitely push the car to its absolute limit, and the grip will be there compared to the other drivers. Essentially, could be potentially losing 5th place as Ando's actually closing a little bit more on Lashbrook. We can see there in the picture frame there, he's probably lost 7/10 on that last lap, did Lashbrook, over Ando Scott, so he's gaining time on the car 11 MSR, but we can see ahead, Lansdale is putting the pressure on Palmer after he served that half-second penalty on the previous lap. So it's not over yet, and even throw Campbell in the mix here as well. Campbell is not far off his teammate as well. So between 3rd to 8th place, it's not resolved yet because there's a lot of racing to go, and it's anyone's game at the moment.
Yeah, definitely from 3rd through to 8th, you could say that any one of those drivers could end up on the podium from here to the end of the races. All it takes is one mistake here or one mistake there, and suddenly Campbell has an opportunity to find his way through into 3rd place.
If he does that, he's definitely my driver of the day tonight. That'll be my driver of the race. If he gets himself from 8th to 3rd, that'll be fantastic. One CP driver. But I think if it's going to be a hard charger or a hard performance, it's going to be, or as we say, I guess it's like, I'm not so sure what the actual saying was. I think it was like the hard performance or something like that, or hard charger. I'm not so sure what the actual technical term is, but if it's going to be the case for the hardest and most sweatiest driving, it would have to go to Hamza in 1st place, carrying damage, and he's still pulling away from Von Duvier. The gap has gone back up to 2.3 seconds. Just remember, we're reminding our viewers here, the damage is on heavy, so he's still carrying that around. He's not thinking about going into the pit lane. He's 2.3 clear of the Lexus driver and Von Duvier. How is this man doing it? And he's still setting some good lap times. He's still in the 1 minute 9s. is Hamza. We can see that Von Duvy's just gone to 1 minute 9.9, so definitely not his fastest lap compared to his previous laps, but a 1 minute 9.9, and Hamza is in the high 1 minute 9.9s as well. This is absolutely incredible driving by the 95. He's there. You can see there his lap times: 1 minute 9.8, 1 minute 9.6, 1 minute 9.9, 1 minute 9.5. How? I mean, this is absolutely just beyond me. how a driver can drive with damage and keep a fast car. It's incredible.
Yeah, obviously he had that pace advantage at the start of the race, and now once he picked up that damage, he sort of, I'll say, took a couple of laps to sort himself out, work out what he needed from the car, or how he needs to adjust his driving style to get around the damage by the looks of things. There is a yellow flag somewhere. So that's from Costa Rock, who looks like he's run off the track there for a moment. We'll see if we can pick up a replay on that one. Okay, that's an interesting one. Looks like he was heading to the pits, and
yeah, it looks like he was. He blocked. It looks like he blocked the pit lane because he came in a little bit too hot. So, and obviously, when you try to reverse a car out of the pit lane, it does give you that automatic glitch, and it just spits you back onto the racetrack. So definitely not what Costa Rock wanted, as him and unfortunately his teammate in Powers is down in 3rd, 5th, and 14th place, parking it on the apex. Unfortunately, on his end, looks like he's on the pause menu there. You can see the hazard lights come on, and the car is keeping pace. So maybe just trying to tell drivers, maybe just let them know in the comments or in the chat that he's got some damage, but I don't know what happened on Costa Rock's ends. And yeah, parking on the middle of the corner there is not what you want to do, and that could be potentially a reviewing for the stewards later on this evening of what happened there, because we can see Lashbrook definitely got compromised. Scott, not so much there, so Scott is right underneath that rear wing of the Lexus driver, and even Jez is underneath the rear wing of Scott in 7th place there. So this is bringing all these drivers into play now. What was a battle was going to be a battle for 3rd place is now going to be a battle for 5th place. Lashbrook, all sorts of under pressure from the 787 and 50. Looks like the 50's just dropped off a few car lengths in the last few corners there, and lost position to Ando Scott. But Ando is really closing up on Lashbrook thanks to the lap car, basically parking on the apex here on turn 6 and 7. Unfortunately for Lashbrook, that cost him so much time, 2.6 behind his teammate in Lansdale, who's actually just losing a little bit of ground, a little bit of time to Palmer as well.
Yeah, Ando obviously sensing a bit of an opportunity here, really closing in on the back of Lashbrook. Don't think he's going to close in quite enough down this straight towards the 10A, 10B chicane. He'll close up to the back, but definitely not close enough to make a pass, and probably will have to wait another lap to make a move, possibly. This time around, he is really close to the back of Lashbrook, so if he can hang on to the back of him through the S's, he could potentially have a run down into turn 6 and 7.
Oh, Ando just took a lot of curb there. He put a lot of sacrifice there. That definitely cost him. He took too much curb going into turn 3, and that's really put him on the back foot there. He really couldn't control the car, went in too deep, and yeah, just lost over 0.8 of a second to Lashbrook, where he was only less than 0.2 going into turn 3. Going on the entry to turn 2 and on the exit of turn 3.
Yeah, so now he's really coming under pressure from O'Shea here. So it could be O'Shea here that makes a move for 6th place, as he gets in the draft down the back straight here. It doesn't look like he's close enough though to make a move into 10A, 10B.
You can see here the parity between the two cars. They're also equal on the straights. It's absolutely incredible. You are getting a few tenths here and there, but it's not much. It's literally 2 tenths down the straight. So credit to all the drivers trying to find a setup for these cars and compromising downforce for straight line speed or vice versa. But these cars are absolutely incredible on pace and parity. We can see, obviously, that it's been a Nissan fest with Hamza getting 100% so far in victories. But you can see there the Lexus in second place. Then it's a Nissan, then a Lexus right behind there. So the lap time between the lap time and even the straight line, the speed that these cars are getting here, especially around this track, is incredible. You're not gaining much. Powers just parked it on the middle of the apex again, and he's almost compromised O'Shea there, but unfortunately with O'Shea, with a half-second penalty, will lose that position to his teammate Ian Campbell. And yeah, basically, as I was just going back onto my point, you can just see up ahead, looked like Ando was trying to close up and make a move on Lashbrook, but again, it's just only like a 10th or 2/10ths that you gain. It's so close.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Probably should have grabbed a look at the replay there. Whether Lashbrook or Ando were compromised there by Powers being a lap car. There's Ando all over the back of Lashbrook there, going down through the S's. He's certainly closing up to the back. He probably just needs to be a little bit closer as he heads through turns 6 and 7.
Yeah, 6 and 7.
Try and get a good run down onto that back straight towards turn 10.
It is the most important corner, this one, turn 7. He just needs Lashbrook just to get too much wheel spin, and this could be a great opportunity. He's got a great run on going onto the back straight as we go on board with Ando Scott in car 787. Will he be able to get the move done and get up into P5? What does Lashbrook do? He puts the car on the inside, but Ando, contact made, and it looks like Lashbrook has gone for a crash on the outside there. So contact made between the two drivers. Thankfully, looks like no damage, but he just gets a spin there, and we have to look back on a replay of what caused that. I think Lashbrook just maybe moved, and maybe Ando had nowhere to go. But this is going to be quite a heated argument between these two drivers on what happened and who was at fault.
Yeah, I kind of think, personally for me, that Ando was committed to going to the left, and I think maybe Lashbrook just needed to just leave that bit of 1 car length gap, as is shown in the rulebook.
That was unbelievably close, and that would have been very scary on Lashbrook's end. That unfortunately demotes him down to P8. He's now coming into the clutches of Walker from WRT Motorsport. So, but Ando up into P5 controversially with the incident that just happened on this corner, going onto the run of 10A. That'll be a very close look by the racing stewards to see what happened there, and it has been noted by the racing stewards that the investigation will be looked at between 787 and car 11 after the race, and we'll wait and see what the verdict is. But that was very close quarters, and that was definitely a code brown moment, unfortunately, for Lashbrook there, going full pirouetting at high speed.
Yeah, definitely not the way you want the battle to end, but yeah, obviously the stewards will have to take a look at that one a little bit later after the racing finishes. But at the moment, we've got Lansdell still all over the back of Palmer for 3rd place, the final spot on the podium, as we're under 5 laps to go in the first race of the night here at the Atlanta Sprint. So Palmer certainly, he had a bit of promise in qualifying, but he certainly hasn't been able to take the fight towards Von Duve and Hamza in the race.
No, definitely not. It was just all because of that start that Von Duve had in that start. It was in that start sequence. It was absolutely incredible. But what is actually more incredible is that Von Duve still hasn't closed up to Hamza. You can see there he's 1.5 now, so he has closed up a little bit. This is a last gasp chance for the car 117 for WTC Racing to get their first touring cars race and break the streak of Ridwan Hamza in first place with car 95. It's always very tricky with Hamza's net, whether he's actually going wide or whether he's actually running the racing line. I just don't know between his net connections, but the gap has closed massively between these two drivers. Looks like Von Duve just ran wide on turn 7, and now he goes into turn 8. A much cleaner run there, but it's going to be where he has his car on the straight there. What the speed difference is between these two drivers. You can see the gap there. It is closing. It's now down to 1.1. Can it get down to just over a second between these two cars going into 10A, 10B? Looks like the Nissan has a bit stronger and better braking performances, but Von Duvy's just got a really nice run out of the exit of 10B through 11 and 12, and this could potentially be the first time we actually see these two cars battling for the lead, and it's dropped down to less than a second now. So that's the first time we've actually seen the gap drop down to less than a second since the first lap here, Jumbo. We saw that on lap 1, and now we're seeing it with 3 laps to go. Can Von Duvy for WTC Racing pick up a victory for the first time here tonight? We'll wait and see. We only got less than 3 laps to go, but the gap has closed massively, and now it's Von Duvy's chance to get victory for Lexus and for WTC Racing. So as it's coming through now, it is less than 6 tenths now between the two cars. It is 5 tenths now, and this is Von Duvy's chance to tuck underneath the slipstream. The car is going to be fast, lightning fast, as Lexus always is, but you can see the gap. It is closing. What does Von Duvy do? Ridwan goes defensive. Von Duvy has to go the long way around the outside of 10A through to 10B as a yellow flag appears, so no passing for Von Duvy. If he makes a pass, he will unfortunately pick up a penalty next to his name, but that gap has really closed up. We are 2 laps to go until the end of this race. Von Duvy versus Ridwan. It could be another race victory for Ridwan, or it could be a first win for Von Duvy here in the main series at Trackstars Touring Cars. He needs to stay underneath the rear wing, and they are being hampered by a compromised car. And we can see there it is the Isaac Esports car that has put Ridwan down the order into P2. A massive contact there. I'm not so sure if you've got that, Jarman, on the replay, but what has happened here? And it is going to be a controversial topic at the end of this.
Yeah, obviously Hamza closing in on the back of, it looks like Powers there, and he's...
Oh, just drive.
It looks like he's been boxed in there by Kosterok popping out onto the track, and then it's Powers is just in front of him. He had nowhere to go, really.
Oh my goodness, and that has cost Ridwan the lead of the race. 3.1 seconds now it is, and with that extra damage, he's now going to come under pressure from his teammate in Ryan Palmer with only 1 lap to go here. It is going to be the first time we actually see the Lexus come through, leading the final lap here. So the Lexus driver and Von Duvy coming through to start his final lap here. Ridwan all sorts of under pressure now, leading in 2nd place, but just ahead of his teammate Ryan Palmer. I wonder what they do as a team. Do they let Palmer through and try and protect that P3 for Hamza, or will it be all hell's bent and Ridwan just tries to keep that P2 ahead of Palmer? But it looks so close between the two drivers. I think he's going to let Palmer go, but Lansdale is right behind Palmer. He's not going to give up. He wants to try and get not just only P3 but P2 at the end of this. You can see he's closing up on Palmer pretty quickly, and you can see I think Ridwan's got no answer for this whatsoever, Jarman. Ridwan is going to come all sorts of under pressure from not only his teammate but Lansdale right behind. We'll keep an eye on that battle pack very shortly and see what happens. But as we cut back towards the front, Palmer looks like he's going to get P2 ahead of his teammate. It looks like he's going to break early. Yes, he does. But back to the front. The streak is over, ladies and gentlemen. We have a brand new race winner. It is Wade Von Duvy for WTC Racing, taking the victory for the first time for Lexus. And we can see Lansdale trying to go for an outside move on Hamza. Doesn't pull it off, unfortunately. And he settles in for P4. Palmer takes P2. Hamza holds on to P3. Gutsy effort there for Hamza to hold on to P3. My goodness. And we can see there the drivers coming through the start finish line. Ward down to P10. We haven't seen much of him after, unfortunately, his incident there. Oldman in 11th place, Harcourt in 12th, and unfortunately for the ISA Esports boys, the centre of controversy here tonight for race 1 for the Atlanta Sprint.
Yeah, definitely not the way we wanted to see that end, and it was certainly shaping up to be a really nice battle there between Von Duve and Hamza for the win, but unfortunately was decided in the favour of Vonduve, and Hamza's streak does come to an end after 4 rounds of victories. It is now Vonduve for WTC Racing, who is at the top of the leaderboard at the end of race number 1. And he'll find himself in victory lane celebrating. I believe this is his first victory in the main series as well.
Yeah, it is. It is actually his first race victory. He's actually he didn't win. Unfortunately, well, he didn't win in the Formula Trackstar, so that is a huge achievement for Vonduve to get not just a victory and breaking the streak of Hamza. He's the first Lexus driver to take victory in the main series, so that's a huge achievement. Your first victory and getting the victory for Lexus is the streak is over for both Victor and manufacturer, and it is Wade Vonduve for WTC Racing taking the victory and the victory here for race 1 of round 5 for the Atlanta Sprint. Palmer takes P2 away from Hamza, so a bit of a switcheroo between the two teammates. That's a good call there between those two drivers. Hamza just holds on to P4. We saw Lansdale going for an ambitious move around the outside of the grass to try and take P3 away from Hamza, but Hamza holds on for the podium, and that is a gutsy drive there by Hamza. I don't know how he did it, how he drove that car with damage for over 20 laps and finishing on the podium. My goodness, that is pure talent right there for Hamza.
Yeah, he did an incredible job, not only to hold off the lead for a while there, but also the final lap. He probably orchestrated things perfectly with Palmer coming under pressure and sort of got himself to the inside, let Palmer through, I guess, in a way. Although Palmer probably did have the speed advantage to get past anyway, and then probably placed his car perfectly to hold on to that 3rd place and see off the charge from Lansdale, who was certainly very gallant in trying to, grab a podium position from that in final lap. And a very brave attempt around the outside, and I'm sure if he pulled it off, we would have been sort of talking his praises.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if he pulled it off and he actually managed to get P3, it would have been a great P3, but it definitely would have been questionable because obviously the overtake would have been done off the track. So maybe it would have had to been a bit of a switcheroo in positions, probably with the stewards' discussions. But nonetheless, that was our podium's positioning. Then we had Ando in position 6, and then we had O'Shea finishing up in P6. So unfortunately for him, it was unfortunately not a great drive, unfortunately for who was it? O'Shea to finished down in P6, with his teammate down in P7, and Lashbrook unfortunately getting that contact with Ando Scott in 8th place. So a little bit of heated discussions between drivers, between teams. We've got it all here at Trackstars Racing Series, but it's proven to be some great racing action here for the first race in at Trackstars Racing Series for the touring cars of the main series. We will take a short break as we get ourselves underway for what is going to be race 2 here for the Atlanta Sprint. So join us very shortly as we get race 2 in a few minutes' time. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. So we just had a new lobby change between sessions, between race 1 and now this race coming up, race 2. So we are trying to get all of our drivers back as quickly as we can. But my goodness, if you're watching that race of what happened over the last 3, we could say potentially 3 laps, that was an absolute clutch racing between Ridwan, who was carrying damage throughout the whole race, ladies and gentlemen. You have to think about it. Just over 20 laps of carrying rear left suspension and tire damage, and rear wing and rear bumper damage as well. And he's driving that car around at full pace, still setting 1 minute 9 laps, and as well, still getting a bit of a seesaw effect over Von Duvey. So he was gaining time, he was losing time, he gained time, he lost time. And unfortunately, with 3 laps to go, I think he lost a little bit too much time. Maybe just lost a bit of confidence in himself. And unfortunately, on his end, he just couldn't hold on to that damage for the last time. So unfortunately for him, he definitely lost out on the victory tonight, and that is unfortunately his streak broken. So as mentioned by Jarman, that was a 4-round streak of victories for Ridwan Hamza in car 95, and it all goes to Wade Von Duvey for WTC Racing. That's WTC's first victory in the main series, in all main series that we've done at Formula Track Stars and here at the Track Stars Touring Cars. And it's also great to see, as well, as a Lexus man myself, my heart through with a Lexus through and through. It is great to see that car taking the victory and entering victory lane. And what a way for Von Duvey to pick up his motivation, get himself up towards the pecking order. And it was all thanks to that start that he did. I mean, I don't know about you in the chat below, but that race start that Von Duvey had from 4th to 2nd on the opening corner, that really set him back for what was an incredible race for the man in car 117. Obviously, we saw the gap between Ridwan and Von Duvey just open up a little bit between those two drivers. It was roughly about 3.5 to 4 seconds when Hamza didn't have the damage, but we don't know exactly where he picked up damage, so we'll be looking back later on in the race replay where he actually picked up some damage and where he lost that time. And unfortunately for him, Hamza lost time, but as I said, he lost time, gained time, lost time, gained time. And for Von Duvey just to come through, take victory, and get his 170 into victory lane, that is absolutely incredible. As we are just waiting on one more driver to come through. We believe it could be Powers that we are missing, but we'll find out very shortly who it is between those drivers. And yeah, just very unfortunate for what happened at the end there. So we did see a couple of the ISA esports cars just get in the way for what was going to be a 2-lap battle pack between those two drivers in both Hamza and Von Duvey. And unfortunately, with 2 laps to go, they looks like they just caused a little bit of drama going up into turn 2 and turn 3. And it just, I think unfortunately probably put a bit of a pincer movement on Hamza there. Probably not intentional. Obviously, maybe we did see them pick up a lot of damage and a lot of incidents fall their way on their side of the garage. But unfortunately, it just came at the wrong place and it was at the wrong time, and just gave Ridwan more damage, gave Von Duvey the lead of the race. Pulled away from that, and as well, Hamza's teammate Impama managed to take P2 on the last lap, but it was probably a strategic move there to try and protect Hamza from losing P3 and preventing Lansdale to get that final step on the podium. But as a solid response there by Lansdale after what wasn't a really good qualifying for the man in car number 5, so holds on to P4. Ando did a really good job to hold on to P5. It was actually Campbell that got ahead of O'Shea. I did think it was Campbell ahead of O'Shea. I thought it was O'Shea ahead of Campbell. And then unfortunately there, Lashbrook in 8th, Walker in 9th, Ward in 10th. And yeah, definitely a lot of controversy in that race of what happened. But we are here, we are ready to go and it is a race 2 time. Can we see the start that Von Duve had that propelled him from 4th to 2nd at turn 1? Can we see him get that excellent start, or will we see a response by the man that took all the victories so far just before the last race, getting a 100% record? That record is now gone. Can Hamza get himself back onto the winners list and another victory next to his name? We'll find out very shortly, as we're about a minute to go before the start of this race. It looks like we're not going to be seeing Powers return this evening for race 2, as it looks like he's just been sent up to the steward's room, and they've probably pulled the car away from the garage and probably set him up into the steward's room after what happened there. But we'll find out all the details and all the news will be on our Trackstars Discord. But here we are for the last time. It is what was a controversial last race. Hopefully we're going to set ourselves for a great race here tonight. It is Von Duve, the victor, and the Lexus driver, taking victory for the first time here at Trackstars Racing Series in the main series, ahead of Palmer and Hamza. With all that damage in race 1, can he have a clean car? Can he get himself back into victory lane? It is 5 lights and it is green flag racing, and yet again Von Duve gets the start of dreams. You can see there he's got 2 car lanes over Palmer in 2nd place. We can see Ando trying to go for an inside move onto the inside of Lansdale. Unfortunately not able to get that through. We can see Campbell has already moved himself up into 5th place, demotes Ando down to P6. O'Shea and Lushbrook keep their positions in 7th and 8th. Still looks like a solid position and great start by all the drivers. So far no major contact between all drivers, but it's still Von Duve with that perfect launch that he gets in that Lexus. He's pushing that car and he's driving that car to absolute perfection, getting the start that he needs, and he's up and he's now leading the race there. As we can see Ando in the background there, he lost it all of a sudden. Unfortunately there for Ando Scott into the weeds, and rear bumper damage, rear wing damage for 787. As we look back onto the replay, did he do this all by himself, or was he actually being given a helping hand? Looks like, he just caught the curbing there. He just on cold tires too. Cold tires and curbs do not mix whatsoever, and that is Ando's race potentially over and out. And unfortunately for him, that is on lap 1 of 32. It's going to be a long race for Ando Scott. What was a top 5 performance, unfortunately, is now down into 13th and last place. So we can see a big mistake there, miscommunication from the It's Racing boys, and that's promoted Lansdale up into P2. So a miscommunication between Hamza and Palmer. I think they were going for a swap in position, as Hamza is the championship leader and Palmer is sitting in P2. Miscommunication between the 2 drivers, and that's promoted Lansdale into 2nd place. So far, and the first time we are seeing it here in the main series, it is Lexus 1-2 here, as we have our lead commentator in Jarman Dallas returning from us. What a start that has been, my friend.
Yeah, very, very crazy start to the race, and just on the incident with Ando, it looks like he just clipped the curb there when he accelerated again, and I think that just threw him out of control there a little bit. But yeah, it looks like Hamza made a move there, ran a bit wide. Palmer was probably opening the door up there for him to go ahead as well, and I'm not sure if it was a miscommunication or just poor execution by the looks of things, but it's dropped Palmer down the order into 5th place with a bit of work to do. Campbell up into 4th place on his, what would be considered one of his home tracks. And of course Lansdale up into 2nd place, with Von Duve running away with things early on in this race, and certainly looking for a clean sweep of races here tonight, as Lansdale just picks up a half-second penalty. So he is going to have his work cut out for him, as Hamza is only half a second back, so he'll be looking to take over that 2nd position as Lansdale serves his penalty.
Yeah, and as you did say that, you thought Von Duve was running away with the victory. You could see the gap there between Lansdale and Von Duve. It is closing. So something happened on this lap that's really compromised Von Duve's chances to pull away, as we see Hamza now take P2 away from Lansdale. So unfortunately for Lansdale, it was closing up with Von Duve, has now given Ridwan a chance to take back P1 and try and keep that car clean without any damage in this 2nd race here at the Trackstars Racing Series Atlanta Sprint. It is Von Duve in car 117 leading the way ahead of car 95 in Ridwan Hamza. So the battle that we saw in race 1, where it was Von Duve chasing Ridwan. It is now Ridwan chasing Von Duve for the victory here tonight, but it's still a long way to go. We've got ourselves 29 laps to go until the end of this race. Anything can happen, and we saw in that first race, we saw exactly what happened.
Yeah, there's certainly a long way to go here, and yeah, Hamza probably, I'd say if there's one driver who can make him pass and overtake happen here, it would have to be Hamza. Although he just ran wide there a bit in the turn 6, he just probably misjudged things. Got the dirty air there, and probably isn't used to the dirty air so much as what he's used to being out in front for majority of this series so far.
I was going to say, he's never really been sitting behind a rear wing before. I think the last time I saw it was at the Green Hell 250. It was actually behind a few drivers. As you see now, Palmer takes back that P4 away from Campbell. So he had a little bit more straight line speed compared to Campbell, and now his teammate in Jeremy O'Shea right behind him. So what did CP Motorsports do? Do they do a bit of a switcheroo? Looks like they are. So it looks like Campbell's just given that position easily to Jezza in 5th place. So now Jerem is now on the hunt to try and catch that 96 of Ryan Palmer in 4th place. As now a bit of a role reversal that we're seeing here in the second race here. Lansdale up into P3, where he was challenging for P3 over Ryan Palmer, but now Palmer's down to P4. He has to look in both mirrors now. He has to look ahead, and now he has to look behind, because right behind him is Jerem, and Jerem got the upper hand on him at Brands Hatch in race 1. So can Jerem do the same thing and try and get past Ryan in this race? We'll find out very soon. Both cars just squirreling on the exit of turn 8. My goodness, it is so tight edge between those two cars.
Yeah, and I think Palmer's certainly had a bit of practice of watching the windscreen and the mirror at the same time tonight. He certainly had it earlier on in the race when Von Duve was in front of him, and of course Lansdale following behind. So sort of back in a similar situation for him, and except this time around it's Lansdale in front and him trying to take the position away to get on the final spot of the podium so far.
Absolutely. So it looks like the Lexus cars and the Nissan cars around this track especially, just the nature of how close it was. And as we saw when we got into the results screen as well before the Lobsy shut itself, we did see how competitive the cars were. All the top 8 drivers were only separated, you could say, by probably about 4 to 5 tenths on lap pace. It was absolutely incredible how close they were. So the Nissan and the Lexus around this track looks like it's suited perfectly to the Trackstars Racing Series BOP. So credit where all credit's due to the management team that managed to get these cars running perfectly around this track, especially because it looks like Hamza's now on position to try and better his lap time with a 1 minute 9.6, just coming underneath the rear wing of that Lexus of Von Duve in 1st place. So does he get himself the fastest lap coming out of the exit of turn 12? He does, a 1 minute 9.3, so that's the new benchmark for fastest lap. He's got himself 2 seconds over Lansdale, and who's just cleared a little bit over Palmer in 4th place, who now has to deal with O'Shea right behind there. As I'm looking down the order there, I'm seeing a few bit of mix and matches there. We can see Walker's moved up into 6th place. Ward has into 7th. Kosterok in 8th place. So are we missing a few drivers? Has made a few mistakes? Yes, Campbell looks like he's made a mistake on one of his laps. Lap 5, 1 minute 19. And Lashbrook as well on lap 5. So did these two come together? Because they are setting themselves, they are well down the order there, Campbell and Lashbrook. They must have had a bit of a get together, those two drivers.
Yeah, that might be something we have to review later on in the post-race debrief. Maybe have a look on the replay and see what's happened there. As Lashbrook now closing up to the back of Albon. Albon's probably been out of our sights for a lot of this race tonight, but he's continuing to put in those consistent performances, sitting in 10th at the moment. But yeah, he just quietly goes about his business, racks up the finishes, continues to have those points ticking over for not only himself but the WRT Motorsport squad. And of course, crucially, they're sitting 4th in the team's championship in what has been a great performance so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And racing with WRT and getting along very well with the team owner and David Williams, who is the team boss of WRT Motorsports. A great story, a great background of how the team formed itself, and to see them in the main series. And like you said, they are just plodding around. They're having a good time. They are basically kind of like a sibling group. I believe Oldman. I think it was Oldman and Walker. I believe they have some sort of relations as
I believe
family
it's father
members.
and son.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Between I believe it was either Oldman or it was Doc from TS2. But I think it was Doc from TS2 was the uncle of one of the drivers. As you can see there, Palmer's looks like he's down the order there. So something massive happened. It looks like, from what I can see, Jezza O'Shea is now up into P3. And contact made between Walker and Palmer gone onto that back straight. We can see there Jezza O'Shea in third place. Lansdale's dropped down to P4. So it looks like, again, some bit of contact, a bit of biff and barge between the Lexus driver and the Nissan driver, and both Lansdale and Palmer. This has worked to perfection for O'Shea. He was behind his teammate only a few laps ago. His teammate gave way to O'Shea, and it's worked out perfectly for the Car 50 driver, who's up into the podium positions.
Yeah, O'Shea getting himself back up the order now into a podium position, probably rightfully where he has belonged all night after that impressive qualifying performance. Although you could probably say, I know you said earlier on in the night that Lansdale, I was getting confused between Lashbrook and Lansdale and sort of not getting the words to come out, but yeah, you could say Lansdale might have been disappointed with his position, but as far as times are concerned, like, there was nothing separating that sort of first 8-9 cars, so all it took was stringing a lap together and it was a difference between third and seventh.
Yeah, absolutely. There was nothing in it between those drivers, and we all literally saw 5-6 cars within a frame shot on the back straight. It was just so close to see how competitive everyone is. And now, especially with a clean car, no damage to his car, Ridwan Hamza in P2 challenging Von Duvey for the lead of this race on lap 10 of 32. He's still riding underneath that rear wing of the Lexus driver, but where we are seeing times gained and lost there, in second place, as we can see there, Hamza just down the back straight, just gained a couple of tenths there. And, you know, this has been a bit of a recurring theme here. You feel like you're gaining time and you're trying to close the gap. But then again, as soon as you get to the braking zone and as soon as you get through the corners here, you just lose time. But for Hamza's case, he's just put another fastest lap in that race there, 1 minute 9.2 over Von Duvey, who's lapping considerably quicker over Von Duvey. So it's just going to be a matter of time and what Von Duvey can do. Can he hold his nerve? Can he hold pressure of keeping the 95 behind the 117? We'll find out towards the end of the race there, but it's some great racing between these two drivers, well-respected drivers, and Von Duvey and Hamza, both really fast drivers, and you can see for racing for two different manufacturers as well, between the Lexus and the Nissan. As we saw, as we know at the start of the touring car season, the Honda NSX has been abandoned and left for the TS2 drivers to be used. For the TS2 drivers to use, unfortunately not making an appearance in the main series. It's all going to be about the Lexus and the Nissan this year, and what a contest it has been here at Road Atlanta, with the Lexus taking victory in race 1, the Nissan still trying to vie for that P1 position, and it is in its best hands of Ridwan Hamza in car 95. He just put a fake dummy move there going to 10A, just try to scare Von Duvey, and Von Duvey's doing a fantastic job holding his nerves, Jarman. This is an absolutely incredible drivers we are seeing in first and second place.
Yeah, it's a really good battle between these two, and there's certainly weaknesses and advantages between the Lexus and the Nissan that both drivers are exploiting. You can see down into that 10A, 10B section that Hamza really closes into the back of Von Duvey. Looks like some superior braking, maybe the aero package on the Nissan is probably conducive to better braking performance, and then of course Von Duvey getting a great launch out of turn 7 there. You could say that probably the power down from the Lexus is probably little bit superior to the Nissan, as you see from the launch out of that turn 7, and of course the launch off the line as well.
I could just see there, Ritwan's just flashing the lights at Von Duve, just trying to scare him. But look at it, Von Duve's just hitting his corners, he's hitting his apexes, he's not being flustered at all. So, you know, we talk about championship contenders and champion drivers. You know, we could potentially be looking at one in the future with Wade Von Duve. Obviously, he's not out of the championship picture here in 2023 for the Touring Cars Championship. But if Von Duve is able to hold his nerve and he's able to keep his car in the position that he needs to keep it with 20 laps to go, you know, that is definitely a championship-worthy drive for Von Duve, and that'll be, you know, an absolutely incredible achievement for the Lexus driver. But Hamza, just losing a bit of time now, so he's just probably just used up a bit of his tyres. Maybe he's just going to pull back a little bit, conserve some tyres, maybe just save a little bit of fuel, and save some tyres as well. You can see there he's just losing time ever so slightly, so he's just pulled back a little bit, preserve some tyres, preserve some of the, just try and get some clear air and get some cool air going into the inlets at the front of the car there, and really just try and get that downforce package to work on his end. So it's a little bit more straight line speed coming from the Nissan compared to Von Duve's Lexus, and we can see there on the exit of turn 7 going into the back straight, the traction that Hamza's got over Von Duve is pretty superior, but everywhere else it looks like the Lexus driver looks like he's getting the power down a little bit earlier compared to what Hamza can do, especially on the exit of turn 1. You can see there he just gained so much time. Does Von Duve on the exit here? He's gained a lot of time as well. So I think what Von Duve's got, he's got the car, he's got the package, and he's getting the tractions at crucial parts of the track, Jarman.
Yeah, of course, he's putting in a stellar performance as well. Of course, you'd probably say that, like looking at the BOP of the cars, you'd say that the outlier has been Hamza all season long. That it's sort of been close racing between everyone else, and then Hamza's been off on his own taking the race wins. But Von Duve's stepped it up tonight and really taken the challenge to Hamza, and is on course for a clean sweep and his first round win at the moment. Hopefully I haven't put any curse on him and he can hang on to it. But yeah, he's certainly proving himself to be a race winner, and that's certainly the first step towards becoming a championship contender.
Another fastest lap there for Hamza. So what he did on the previous lap, he just backed off a little bit. I think the gap got to about 1.2 seconds, and you could just see throughout the whole lap, especially on the exit of turn 5, from turn 5 all the way up into 10A, 10B, he managed to gain at least 6/10, and that's where he managed to pull in that time and really close up. And then again, he's just losing time through the S section. So Von Duve's car package just looks really nice through that S section compared to Hamza. So he's just getting a little bit squirrely there on the exit of turn 7. So that's helping. That's definitely losing him a little bit of time. As we go down the order, we can see Jezza O'Shea in third place, only about just over 4 seconds behind Hamza. Lansdale, from what I saw between himself and Palmer, looks like they may have been caught up in an incident between those two drivers. Not 100% sure on what happened between the MSR and its racing driver, but we can see there Palmer is just a bit far behind Lansdale in 4th place. So I think if things stand at the moment, if Lansdale holds on to P4, if I can think about doing some quick maths, he'll probably get 3rd overall in this race here. I think from what I can gather, if he holds on to P4,
I think Palmer will just get him, because there was like 2 positions between Palmer and Lansdale in race 1.
Yeah, that could be very close.
Obviously, the 2nd place from Palmer, and then Hamza splitting the 2.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that could be another thing. That could be another thing. It'll be very close though. It'll be very close for that battle for 3rd place between Hamza and Palmer and Lansdale. So we'll find out very soon. We'll find out as the weeks go by of who takes out the overall standings, but it is Von Duve over Hamza, over O'Shea. A much better drive for O'Shea compared to race 1 in 3rd place. Lansdale in 4th, Palmer 5th, Walker a fantastic drive from down the rear of the field into 6th place. Ward for Robosport Racing, a much better race for him in 7th place. And Campbell looks like after losing a few positions has got himself back inside the top 8. But again, we just can't keep our eyes off the battle pack up front. As we look down the order, Kosrock in 9th, Lashbrook inside the top 10. Ando's made a few decisions. Looks like he came in to fix up that damage early on, so he's down in 11th place. Hardcore 12th, and Altman in 13th and last place. But again, we just can't keep our eyes off this battle pack here, gentlemen. It is so close, and it is for the lead of the race here in Trackstars. We're just gone over half distance now, over half race distance, and Von Duvy's holding his nerves, and he's holding on to an absolutely incredible car as Hamza just skates it on the exit of turn 7, losing a little bit of time and speed over Von Duvy. But my goodness, like the drive that Von Duvy's having in this car, and the drive and performance he's having tonight, after what was P4 in qualifying, to get himself up into P2 in the entry of turn 1 and race 1, that's incredible. Like the start that he can get in that car is incredible. From 4th to 2nd in race 1 on the exit of turn 1, and then challenging Hamza with a broken car for the victory, getting the victory, and now defending P1 over Hamza, who's been in dominant form this year in 2023.
Yeah, definitely can't sing enough praises about how well Von Duve has done tonight. Of course, it probably goes to show that sometimes qualifying, all it does is just sets the grid position. Because in a way, you've still got plenty of race to go, and there's a lot of race to make your way up or down the order, and Von Duve has certainly had the start and had the consistency to get himself to win in the first race, and of course had a great launch his second race, and is just doing a brilliant job keeping it clean and consistent, doing everything he needs to do just to hold on to the lead.
Yeah, as you can see there, Hamza just still setting fastest sectors there. He just went fastest through sector 2. He's going to definitely eclipse the fastest lap here if he gets a nice run out of turn 12. He does, so that's another fastest lap there for Hamza. So we can see both Hamza and O'Shea trading fastest laps. Oh, Von Duvy's off! Von Duvy's off! He's down to 2nd place. He's just went wide into turn 1, and he's got front end damage. No, what could have been a great race for Von Duvy. He's down and went very wide. He can't control the car, and that is car 117 out of position and well down the order there. Oh, that is definitely gut-wrenching for the man and the leader of WTC Racing. You can just see there, it's just plummeting down the order, losing position, hand over fist. What happened there? What happened to his car that made it go from 1st to 10th place? You can see there, 1 minute 9.3 on his lap time there. Did he just clip the grass, or did he just go wide? I think he may have just clipped the grass.
Just
there.
Looks like he's missed the apex there. Just ran a bit too wide, got onto the marbles, and off the track he's gone. And unfortunately, that tyre barrier there has probably proven a bit costly there for him. And then, of course, the GT7 physics of allowing you to spin the wheels up as soon as you try and get going has really added some misery to his situation.
We'll just sing in the praise that he went over half race distance leading the race, and he's down in 10th place. Does he come into the pit lane to fix the damage? Or, yeah, it looks like, yeah, he's coming into pit lane, and unfortunately it looks like he's just crossed that yellow line, so he could be getting himself a 3-second penalty next to his name to add to misery, as he's just coming in, potentially putting on some fresh tyres. He does, fixing the damage up, and wow, that is... I feel bad for the man in Wade Von Duvy. He was running such a perfect round, a perfect race, and that to happen to him, very unfortunate. But what it has done is given Ridwan the lead of the Atlanta Sprint here, round 5 for race 2 of the Touring Cars Championship. That gives Ridwan back the lead in 1st place. Jezza O'Shea in 2nd place. Lansdale up into 3rd. Palmer 4th. Walker inside the top 5. Jezza's 4.5 behind Hamza, but these two have been trading fastest laps, hands over fist. between the two drivers. Looks like Lansdale's not too far behind O'Shea. Looks like he's probably going to be the closest contender to try and challenge for higher positions of the podiums, because Palmer's 4.1 behind Lansdale. Walker inside the top 5, but I just can't get over that. What just happened to Von Duve, Jarman? I feel so bad for the man.
Yeah, he was doing an excellent job, and yeah, just a fraction too wide, and it's all come unstuck for him, and you certainly have to feel for him there. He was very much on for a great result there, taking his maiden race win in the main series of Track Stars, and certainly a rookie well, it is very much a rookie campaign in the touring car series, of course, as he was last year's TS2 champion, so he's made a step up, risen to the level as well, and yeah, unfortunately it's all come unstuck for him in just a small lapse of concentration, possibly.
Yeah, and that's all it is. Turn one at Road Atlanta, bites again. You run wide, you miss the apex, you carry too much speed, and there's a wet patch of grass that there's no point of return whatsoever. We saw that with Tyler Lansdale trying to go for an outside move here on this corner at turn 12, but you could just see there's no grip there. You could definitely see there's no grip and there's no point of return once you get onto the grass. And for Von Duve's case, it was just a matter of time of just trying to pray that he didn't hit the tie barrier. He slowed the car down just, but just unfortunately the barrier just came closer to him, and unfortunately hit it, got some front bumper damage, and yeah, well outside the top 10. I believe he's down in 12th place now, is Von Duve, and that's just a sad way to end his campaign. 13th place for Von Duve. So victory in race 1. 13th in race 2. That's not how you want to end your night at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, it's very, very quickly gone from the top to the bottom, unfortunately, but there is still another 11 laps to go, and he's only 8 seconds behind Oldman, so he can still salvage some extra positions here. Maybe try and climb his way back up to at least 11th and see how it goes from there.
Absolutely, we'll have to wait and see. As we can see there, Ridwan's just extending that gap over O'Shea's, just over 5 seconds now. Palmer is losing time to Lansdale. He looks like he was closing up a little bit, but he's losing time to Lansdale. Lansdale is closing up to O'Shea. Walker's doing a fantastic job after what we saw on the last lap. He just ran wide on the exit of turn 3, but still held the car to keep that car in 5th place. Campbell in 6th. Ward in 7th place, and Costarock inside the top 8. And where we saw Costarock in race 1, and from what was a disastrous race 1 for ISA Esports, now we're seeing Costarock in 8th place inside the top 8. So that's a much better recovery drive for car 55 in that Lexus. And unfortunately for him, his teammate not able to join the grid for race 2 after what was an ECU failure in his Lexus RCF. And probably a trip to the steward's room whilst this race is commencing. But yeah, but a much better recovery drive there for Costarock inside the top 8, as we see Campbell now closing up 4 tenths behind Walker. And this could be another great performance by Walker, and definitely what I've seen in the 3 rounds I raced at the beginning of the series, that Walker is just a driver that just comes. I feel like Walker is a driver that comes out of nowhere, Jarman. You don't really see him much throughout the race. He might lose a position here to Campbell. No, he doesn't. He still holds on to P5, still holding his nerve over the CP driver. But where we see Walker at times, he's just a consistent driver, and that's why we see him usually higher up in the championship, where we would think we know he's in a position. The races that he puts and where he places his car and where he finishes in certain parts of the races, that's why he's high up in the championship. And it's incredible to have that consistency that Walker has. I believe he got himself a P4 or a P3 at Dragon Trail Seaside for the first round in race 2. I can't remember, but he's always up there in one way or another.
Yeah, he's very much been a consistent performer throughout the series, and sort of when all the chaos comes out, you see him just pop up inside that top 3, top 5 position. And yeah, he just continues, like I said about Oldman, he's just a quiet achiever, just goes about his business with very little fuss, and
Yeah.
Just pops up when you least expect and keeps racking up those points, and it's proven to be a very good strategy for the WRT Motorsport team. As you can see, not only in Walker's standing, he's currently sitting 5th in the championship, but also the team as well, with WRT sitting 4th in the team's standings.
Yeah, like I said, like you would think for Walker, he's a great, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic driver. Any team would love to have Walker's would love to have Walker's presence and capabilities in their team for a new team, or it could be for an enduro drive. You never know. Walker's capabilities of driving a car is absolutely incredible. As I mentioned before, in race 2 at Dragon Trail Seaside, he did pick up a podium. So I believe there was a lot of chaos in that race 2 at Dragon Trail Seaside, and he just comes from out of nowhere, keeps a clean car, gets himself a podium. And all the other results that we see next to his name, he's always up inside the top 8, top 5, and he's just racking up points. And like you said, P3 and the P5 in the championship, and in the WRT and P4. I mean, you have to have a guy like Walker in your team. Just get that consistency, get that drives in, get those stellar drives that you can put in. Unfortunately, he might not have the raw pace. It's all about luck. But for this case, the luck is going Walker's way, and that's why he's sitting P5 in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, of course, you sort of want that as a team manager. You certainly want that from your drivers, that they, I mean, obviously raw pace is great at times, but at the same time, it's no point having that really fast one lap if you're binning it the other 31 laps. So it's sort of something you have to balance, and Walker certainly has found his right balance there, and it proves to come to his advantage more often than not with keeping a consistent run.
Absolutely there. As we can see there, it was actually very interesting from what I saw from those two drivers. They're taking 2 different lines through turn 12. It looks like Walker's taking a bit of a wider line just to go for a late apex, then we see Campbell just going for a narrow line just to try and keep that speed as tight as possible. So very different lines that these two drivers are taking well, for what I can see there, actually we did see a bit of an accident there between Costarock. So something happened between Costarock and potentially Apex in Lashbrook. So what happened here between these two drivers? Looks like Lashbrook was going for an inside move there. Looks like a little bit of contact, mate. Oh, he just caught the back end of Costarock's car, unfortunately. If we could try and get another replay, let's go for a bit of an onboard with Lashbrook of what happened there. Was he far up enough, and was there enough space given? Oh, that is so close. That is a very hard one to call there. We definitely don't want to be making calls on the stream there, but it is very tight for what that incident happened between Lashbrook and Costarock.
Yeah, that's very touch and go one. You sort of see them nearly draw level there, and then it's almost like Lashbrook sort of slowed up a bit more to try and allow Costarock that room on the outside on the exit, and it's just not really worked out, and Costarock sort of come across a bit too much and didn't account for Lashbrook still being there. So it's certainly a hard one to judge, and it certainly won't make a judgment call on that one at the moment, and maybe allow the stewards to take a more in-depth look at things in the post-race review.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely be looking at that as we look back towards the leader. As we go down the grid for the final time, it is Hamza over O'Shea. Got a clear gap over O'Shea, over 7 seconds between the It's Racing Esports driver and the CP driver. Lansdale holds on to 3rd, Palmer 4th, Walker 5th. Campbell still applying the pressure on the WRT driver in 6th place. Then we have Ward in 7th place. Lashbrook holding on the top 8. Harcourt, the man's been quiet in Craig Harcourt. What was a trip to the hospital only at the start of this week, is now up into P9. So that's a great drive for Craig Harcourt. And Von Duvey, this is the man of the hour that we should have been singing praise to, that was holding the lead for over half race distance.
Oh, that's really
and
cruel.
There you go. And this is going to be cruel for Von Duvey. He's ahead of Hamza, but not ahead in the track position. He's just given away to Ridwan, and that is a crueling blow there for Von Duve to give that lap to Ridwan in car 95. That is a sad sight to see, unfortunately, for Von Duve in 10th place. Down in 11th, we have Oldman in car 151. Then we have Scott in 12th place. So not a great race for WTC Racing, unfortunately, in race 2 compared to their first race. And then Kosterok, after getting some engine damage, after plummeting into the tyre barrier, where we saw Von Duve in 13th and last place. So that is a sad sight to see. As we see Walker, he just holds on. How has he done that? Nearly takes out Campbell in the process of it all. Loses P5, drops down to P7 there, and he did it. It looks like he didn't need to do that, because I feel like he had a good gap over Campbell going on to 10-8.
Yeah, it was a 1.8 second gap, so yeah, nearly 2 seconds, and maybe just got a bit complacent there and got on the gas a bit earlier than he should have, and it's just come unstuck for him there.
That is so unlucky for Walker.
But yeah, Ward is now all over the back of Campbell for 5th place. It was a battle for 6th there for a moment, so I think Campbell must have made a mistake somewhere and just brought Ward back into the conversation. And now with the mistake from Walker, it's now a battle for 5th place.
Yeah, I think both drivers, both Campbell and Ward, are very grip limited. You can see the tyre usage on both cars. They are absolutely worn to well over 50% on that front left, and probably about 70%, over 70% worn on that rear left. So these guys are very grip limited. You've got to push the car to its absolute limit to try and gain positions, but push too much, you go wide. We saw that with Von Duve, who led the race at the early parts of this stage, lost the lead to Ridwan Hamza, and then we saw as well Kosterok getting into all sorts of troubles with Lashbrook, but that will be under investigation by the stewards. As we see there, Ward just runs a bit wide, loses that gap. It's over a second between himself and Campbell. That might be enough for Campbell to hold on to P5 at the end of this race there. So Ward in 7th, Ward in 6th place, Walker in 7th, Lashbrook right behind in 8th place, 6.2 behind, putting no threats at all for Walker's P7. But as we come back, as we're about to approach the final lap here, for Ridwan to lead the way for the last time here at Trackstars Racing Series for the touring cars in the main series, it is Ridwan over O'Shea. Lansdale's got a good gap to hold on to P3, and we are on the final lap here. What a race and what a comeback drive this has been from Ridwan. Unfortunately, was behind Von Duve throughout over half race distance in this race, but the heavens opened and Moses came through and they opened the passageway for car 95 to take the lead and get himself up into P1, and that is a very good redemption drive, you could say, for Ridwan Jarman in that 95.
Yeah, you could say it was a bit unfortunate in that first race with that sort of incident. I won't say it really was anyone's fault entirely, but he's sort of what he had in bad luck in race 1, he's sort of got back in good luck in race number 2 as he comes around 10A and 10B for the final time now and sweeps through these final 2 turns, and it'll be Hamza who comes across the line and takes 5 round wins from 5 starts here with the Trackstars Touring Car Series. And round number 5 at the Atlanta Sprint goes to Hamza. It'll be O'Shea who comes across the line in second. A brilliant comeback drive for him for CP Motorsports. And then Lansdale crossing the line around out the podium in 3rd place for Mash Spuds Racing in the Lexus. Palmer crosses the line in 4th place. I think he will grab the podium position over Lansdale. I believe both of them might actually end up on the podium, so it could be Palmer and then Lansdale 2nd and 3rd for the round. And then going through the order a bit further, we've run out of time there actually.
Yeah, we don't know who crossed the line where, but what we do know is the driver that crossed the line in first is Ridwan Hamza in car 95. What a great victory for the It's Racing driver. Now that's, as you said, that's 5 round wins from 5 starts. Very unfortunate for Von Duve. That definitely could have been a round win for the WTC Racing driver in car 117, down in 9th place. He got that position off hardcourt on the final lap, gets himself up into P9, so still putting on some points next to his name. So there's still a great performance there by Von Duvey, but unfortunately just one corner, one mistake at all it takes here at Road Atlanta. It could be a mistake, it could be running wide and going to Narnia, or it could be that dreaded half-second penalty for cutting the corners here at Road Atlanta and running over the track limits. But for Hamza's case, it is a victory again next to his name, and it is a round victory for 95.
Yes, a great victory there for Hamza. Just looking a bit further down the order, of course, we had Campbell salvaging a top 5 in his home track, well, in his home country at least. And then, of course, Ward in 6th, Walker 7th, another good result there for him, even though he made a mistake towards the end. Lashbrook finding his way back up to 8th place. And then Von Duve up into 9th. He managed to salvage a top 10 result there. Harcourt coming across the line in 10th, rounding out top 10, of course. And then we have Oldman and then Scott and then Kosterok rounding out the field.
Absolutely. So we've got 13 drivers. Unfortunately, with Powers not making the grid, that is the end of the Trackstars Touring Cars Round 5 Atlanta Sprint. What a way to what a round to make my main series debut here at Trackstars Racing Series for commentary. That was absolutely incredible. We saw some incredible racing in the support category in TS2, and now we've seen some incredible racing and some clutch driving from all drivers here in the main series. Ridwan driving with damage for over 20 laps in race 1, and Von Duvey getting his first taste of victory in the Lexus, that is, and for his team at WTC Racing. Unfortunately, all came down the wrong way for him, finishing in 9th place after picking up damage on the exit of turn 1, giving the victory to Ridwan in race 2. O'Shea back on the podium, so that's a great comeback drive for O'Shea. Lansdell up into P3, Palmer in P4. So between those two drivers, there was a little bit of maybe a bit of biff and barge between those two drivers, because they were battling for, I believe they were battling for 3rd and 4th at the time, but O'Shea was right behind them. So maybe some sort of incident between those two drivers. We're not so sure. We'll find out later on in the week to see what happened between those two. And Campbell, like you said, up into P5, another great drive, and for the CP Motorsports to rack up some great points for that team. Ward, a better drive for Ward this time round in 6th place, and great drive from Walker nonetheless. But before we conclude this coverage here, Jarman, we might have to, I think we might end the stream of who we're going to give our driver of the day here. And I've got one name I definitely would have given to him if he not crashed out in the second race, but I'm actually going to give it to Jerem. Jerem had a very strong qualifying. He didn't have a very good race 1, but he still kept his car inside the top 6. And then that second race, what a drive that was for Jeremy. Just maybe a bit of luck went his way, but luck has to go on your side. And in this case, it went to Jerem, and definitely deserves my driver of the day in the main series here at Atlanta.
Yeah, that's probably a very solid pick there. It's really a tough one to choose between probably any one of 10 drivers, really. I'd probably even make a case for Walker. If it wasn't for that mistake at the end, it would have been a great drive for 5th place. Campbell as well, he recovered well, and Lansdell put in some great performances as well throughout the race. And yeah, it's a tough one. I'd even nearly give it to Hamza as well. Probably a little bit biased, but the way he did manage that damage was really impressive as well.
Yeah, that was super impressive. I think if it was any other driver, everyone else would be overtaking him, and if it was any other driver, he or she would be going into the pit lane to fix that damage, but not for Ridwan. He drove that to absolute perfection, and what a drive that was. So that is us here at Trackstars Racing Series. Thank you so much for tuning in for round 5 of the main series of Trackstars Touring Car Series. Thanks to Jarman for bringing the stream and hosting tonight's session here and bringing you the live broadcast. So if you did like that, hit the like button, subscribe to the Trackstars Racing Series YouTube channel. Follow us on our socials at Facebook for Trackstars Racing Series, Instagram as well. And if you feel like you want to get yourself involved in some GT500 racing or any other forms of racing, we'll provide for you guys in Trackstars. Join our Discord. We have a great community and some great drivers that are willing to help us out and help you out to be as fast as them. But on behalf of myself, Nick Patasa, making my debut in the main series commentary box, thanks to Jarman. Next to me, alongside me, we are going to be out of here. We are going to have a great time in the city of Atlanta. But for now,